What's going on, y'all? This is Chris with my church band. Now, you probably have come to a place in your life where you want to actually record a, um, track or kind of copy track that already exists. Like this track that I have here, it's "He's Not Just a Man." It's an older one from one of Fred Hammond's albums. I don't remember the name of it, but it's a Fred Hammond album. I think, yeah, "Speak Those Things." And "He's Not Just a Man." It's typically a Christmas type song that people would do. But let's just say, for example, you did have Christmas or a holiday or whatever you had coming up, and you needed either a track, just straight out track, or just part of it, so you could just do some of the parts and stuff. And maybe you had a drummer and a bass player, or maybe it was just a keyboard player, you or whatever, and one other instrument, and then one other musician. So what you want to do is, you want to go out and you want to say, hey, well, I can't find this track anywhere, or I want to have it like where I can make this and it's exactly the way I want it. Maybe it's a different key, or maybe it's a different arrangement. For all intents and purposes, we're just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna show you how I would go about doing something like this. Now, I have 29 tracks, so one track is gonna be where I loaded here, and what I'm using here. Let me expand this. What I'm using here is Logic Pro. And this, of course, only comes on a Mac. So this is a DAW, or a digital audio workstation. If you don't know what that is, you can check out this video right over here in the corner, and it will tell you what that is. So what I'm gonna do, what I did was I loaded this in and I muted it. So let's just take a listen. I'll just put it on for a minute or two. Not even that long, just a couple seconds, so you can kind of get the song. If you might know it. So I'll play it here. Matter of fact, I'll just skip to here. All right. Days we never seen. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get a flag or something from YouTube, but I really don't care. So I'm just trying to teach y'all something here, but I guess they don't really care about the Fair Usage Act. At any rate, this is it here. So typically what I do here, like this here is called a region, right? These are all regions, all of these over here. I'll take this off of solo, so I have different color ones just to help me so I don't mix things up with my ADD self. And I'll have this particular track here highlighted here. The first part I want you to understand, don't pay too much attention to all these other tracks that I have going on. I'll explain all of this stuff. But this first track here, I loaded it, and I did it in a specific way. Now, when I loaded it, what I did here, I went on the left hand side here, and I loaded something called the BPM. Well, BPM stands for beats per minute. So if I'm gonna copy this track, and I want it obviously to be true to the way the track is. So what we're gonna look at here is how to use this BPM. That's one thing, and then we're gonna look at how we're gonna cycle a section and how we're gonna slow it down. We would want to cycle a section because we may want to repeat a part if we're listening to it over and over again. It could be for any reason. You want to learn the chords of a part, you want to learn how to play it, or you may not want to learn that. You may want to learn or understand what's going on with the instrumentation. So you may just keep, you may want that to be repeated, and also you may want to slow it down. So we're going to talk about those three things. So I split my screen here, and this BPM here is plugged into this channel. This first channel strip we see here says BPM. I'm just going to double click on it. So it gives you the counter, right? And it tells you how fast it is. It's important because you want to match it as closely as possible, obviously, for it to sound the same. So I'm going to play it back, and I'm going to show you what it does. It only works when you play it back. Yet his first moments were in fact, let me just go back to the beginning where you actually have some what's called transients here, these spikes on this region here. All right, so now it pops up. You see here's 110, right? So 110 beats per minute. And where you would put that in is in this area over here. I'm gonna hit this and I'm gonna go to custom. So I'm gonna get all of that now. So I have this already set because I already did this some time ago. And this, you can double click that, and then you can punch in your tempo. So now the tempo's throughout the entire project here, right? So now we can close this, and this is how we would get that. But how do we guarantee that it's not gonna automatically just line up what you see here in these transients here? These things look like little mountain peaks. They're called transients because they're typically like a percussive hit or some kind of drum or something, right? And transient means that they don't last long. They're here and then for an instant, and then they're gone. They're not sustained like you would have sustained sound. So these transients, you want to kind of have them lined up to where you would want to be. So what I would do, I would kind of punch all the way in, and you can do that by taking this here. I have a trackpad, so I just spread my fingers apart in the trackpad, and that's what gets me to get as close in as possible. But when I know that it's 110 beats, like I said, I'll set it up here, and then I'll go ahead and line up the first transient that I have here. So this is pretty much where I would have it, about right here. Typically I would kind of shift it around a little bit, and let's take a listen to that now and see how close it is. I'll go ahead and I'll put on the this metronome and play it back so we can hear the clicks and the times, and I'll pull the volume back to this a little bit. So it's pretty close, right? Might be behind just maybe a hair because I'm anal like that. Okay, I would just have these transients here and have them on top of the beat. So with that, I know that, okay, this is pretty close. I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to play it back to see what it sounds like. We see that it's lined up with these lines here that line up to the transients in this audio region, you know, and it goes all the way through, and it's pretty consistent, because sometimes you may have them playing or doing something on a track. You may speed up and slow down a little bit depending on if they use a loop or anything like that. So now we have that part. So that's how I would line that up. Like I said, I would punch in as closely as I can and line it up with the beginning of the measure. And the way that works, each of these is a measure. So I know that it's 4/4 time. I'm gonna get 4 beats in a measure. So say for whatever reason I wanted to repeat bar, it's 13 to 14. All right, so what I would do is double click on the number, and the second time just hold it down and drag this out. This gives me the range of my cycle that I wanna keep repeating. So when I hit the space bar or hit the play button, it's going to start right over from here and just keep repeating that area. It'll just keep repeating it. And say I wanted to learn that string part or whatever, right? That's the part I wanted to get, but I'm not understanding it, or the drums or whatever I wanted to get. And you hear the beginning of that fretless bass that comes in right at the end here. Right? Now we know that the BPM is 110. We know that we have all the transients are on the actual beats, on the bars themselves, and it goes all the way through. We listen to it with the metronome, so we know that's correct. And we have this part cycled or repeated. So now we want to be able to slow it down a little bit. So now with the Varispeed on, we have to activate it. So in order to activate it, we just hit this over here, the plus and the minus. And what now we can do, if we play it back, is going to say speed only, and it's going to slow it down to 28%. The great thing about Varispeed is that it keeps the pitch for the most part. Of course, you're going to lose it once you start to slow it down to extreme amounts. So if we take it down to, I'll take it down here to, take it to 0, and that's normal speed, right? I can push it up. It's going to keep the pitch, but you won't have that chipmunk sound, fortunately, but it'll definitely speed it up, for whatever reason, if you want to do that. It'll definitely speed it up for whatever reason you want to do that. But if I take this now and I drag it, right, to where we had it before, a little bit around where we had it before, right? But as we begin to slow it down, it'll lose some of the quality. So I can drag it here to drag it by huge amounts, or I can just take it by the second number, and it does more incrementally. So if we go all the way up to like 50%, okay, and it's pretty good without a whole lot of artifacts. And just a quick tip here, if you ever take a file like this and slow it down to that much, you want to take a file that is a WAV file, if you can find that, or uncompressed file, an AIFF file, or a WAV file. With an MP3 file, there's a lot of information that's not there, so you're gonna get a lot of artifacts when you try to slow it down that much, because there aren't as many pieces of the song. It's really the sample rate, but there's not many pieces of the song there. So the software is going to try to make up for it. You're going to hear some noise and some artifacts like clicks, scratches, warbly parts, and things like that. So like I said, getting back to the speed thing now, so we can slow this down. This says speed only. We can actually change this to go to speed and pitch. So when we slow it down and we have it all the way here, listen to what it sounds like. notice that the speed and the pitch is changing. We push the sole up to the opposite direction. Now you have that chipmunk effect. So when you're putting on the Varispeed, you want to click on here and just go to speed only. You don't want to change the pitch unless that's something you're looking to do. But if you're trying to learn a part and you want to record the part, and you're trying to learn it or understand what it's doing in the section, you definitely want to just choose speed only. Now we're gonna, I can just take this off. Matter of fact, I can take this off from here, and I'll deactivate it. And then when we hit the space bar or hit play again, it's playing back at its regular speed. So we know that this first region here, this part that's highlighted, this is called an audio region. When we load it into our DAW, we can load the BPM plugin. And then we play it back. What we want to do is find an area that has the most transients. The transients are these little spikes that pop up in the audio region, and they tell you that they're going to be there for a second and then gone. Typically, it's going to become some kind of drum beat. Almost all the time, you'll see that. And if we want to slow it down now, we can go to this arrow here. We can hit custom or customize control bar and display and hit Varispeed. What Varispeed does, it helps us to take it and either speed it up or slow it down while maintaining the pitch. But in order for it to do that effectively, we have to make sure that speed only, when we click on this up here, speed only is going to be selected. So in the next video, what we're going to talk about are the rest of these tracks and actually how I formulated all this. I'm actually going to let you hear it in the next video. You get to hear all these instrumentations and things like that. You might be surprised that, wow, there's a lot of instruments here and a lot of different parts and some things repeat. Well, I'm going to talk about all of that. So that's what I'll talk about in the next video. I'll let you hear what these sounds sound like and how I go about listening to each part and how I go about tracking each part for it to sound as close to the track as possible. If you have any questions about this, and hopefully you do, because I want to have some discussions about some of this stuff, and so whenever you come here to learn, I can help you. But if you do have questions about audio, if you do have questions about the kind of keyboard that you need, the kind of computer that you need, software, the kind of things that I use, you can check out my website and go download my free guide. It's over at mychurchband.com/jumpstart. It will give you a jumpstart on what you need to learn, the things you need to acquire, and how to get the very best things you need for the lowest amount of money if you don't have anything at all from start to beginning. And it will definitely be a blessing to you. So you can check that out. God bless you, and I'll see you next time in part 2 of this video.